Hey, yo, welcome into the CHGO White Sox podcast live from Nashville and the MLB winter meetings. I am Kevin Kaduk, head of content at CHGO. On my right is White Sox community leader, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
On my left is CHGO White Sox beat writer, Vinnie Duber. And to my far right is a special guest, MLB Network insider, John Paul Morosi. He's here to talk about Patrick Kane on the Red Wings.
I believe so. Debut tomorrow. It's all in the original six family, Kevin. But Kevin, Herb, Vinny, great to be with you guys. Great to talk some White Sox baseball, winter meetings baseball. Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, thanks for stopping by. It's been an interesting winter meetings. I think, that's a relative term. But for the White Sox purposes, we came in here thinking about Dylan Cease. What would the market look like? What would the White Sox want to get from him? What would other teams be willing to give up for him? What have you heard about Dylan Cease as you've walked around the hotel here?
Very popular name. And I think the distinction between Dylan Cease and Corbin Burns and Shane Bieber as well is the years of control. In the case of Cease, it's 2, and with Burns, it's 1, and with Bieber, it's 1. With Glass now, it's 1. Mm-hmm. So I think because of that value component, the 2 years really is crucial. And I think you look as well, and I made this point, we were talking back and forth on MLB Network recently about how he would set up. If Dylan Cease were a free agent right now, if you were to look at his last 2 years and compare them to Aaron Nola's last 2 years, especially when you group in Cease's 2022, he's better. And so when you think about Aaron Nola signing for $175 million, it tells you there's a lot of value in what Dylan Cease does. There's a lot of industry interest in what he's able to do with his swing and miss, with his youth, pretty good track record of staying healthy. So for all those reasons, he's a very appealing player. And so I think, like a lot of things this week, and stop me if you've heard this before, but some folks are waiting on Ohtani and Yamamoto to see just how desperate they are to get Dylan Cease. So for example, the Dodgers, if the Dodgers don't get Ohtani, and if they don't get Yamamoto, and maybe if they don't get one of the top free agents as well in that upper echelon, then a trade becomes very palatable. And if you're given the choice, I do think the Dodgers would prefer to have someone for 2 years, because if you look at the Dodgers rotation, it's not just a 1 year need. They actually need guys for a while. If you look at their playoff rotation when they were winning the World Series, for example, a lot of those names are gone. And so they need to replenish that. Kershaw's not getting any younger. So for all those reasons, I think getting Cease for 2 years for a team like the Dodgers, the Braves would also fit in the same category. The Giants fit in the same category. There's a lot of teams out there. The Orioles are another one with their great base of prospects. So I think the White Sox can and should dream a little bit on what they can get for him, because the interest in him is simply that strong.
Chris Getz and Josh Barfield both told us this week, John, that they don't think they have urgency to trade Dylan Cease, that they don't think they need to trade Dylan Cease. If that's the case and they are willing to be patient and wait for the right offer, how about the other teams? What sort of urgency is there from other teams? Obviously, you laid out, some of the mechanics that are going on right now. But once we get to that stage, what is the urgency of some of these other teams to trade for Dylan Cease versus trading away Dylan Cease?
It's a great point, Vinny. And I think a big part of that is you think about the dynamics of the offseason versus the in-season. And I remember a long time ago, a GM once told me, John, if I'm going to trade a position player, the best time to trade a position player is in the offseason, because you've got every GM has some maneuverability in his or her roster to make some changes. We're seeing this unfold in real time today with Juan Soto and the Yankees. There you go. A 1 year position player. The better time to trade Soto for the Padres was now and not in July. The difference with pitching is that right now, if Chris Getz calls up the Braves and says, hey, I need your 1 and 2 and 3 prospect, Alex Anthopoulos could say, wait a minute, I've got this entire list of free agent pitchers that I can sift through. Why would I do that right now? But in July, he can't say that. In July, there's no option to say, well, I'm gonna go to the free agent market, because it doesn't exist. And so for that purpose, I do think the mechanics of the marketplace do suggest that moving him in July is a very valid plan, especially if you believe, and this is, I think, where you have to trust your baseball staff, medical staff. If Chris Getz Josh Barfield say to themselves, we believe there's more in there than what he gave us in 23, and that his value is going to come up in the first half of the season. And if it does, then you're trading him to a team for 2 pennant races. And that team, by the way, has already proven itself for a couple months to be a contender, at which point in time, maybe you're a bit more willing to make that deal. So I think they can be patient. And that's one of the reasons why I really like the move they made with Bummer, because they were able to bank a good return with major league players who, if things go well health-wise, potentially account for 40% of your rotation with one trade for a reliever when you're probably not going to be competing for a World Series. Like that's almost always the right strategy. And I think we saw a really good first move of the Getz, Barfield, Giannis, Gene Watson administration.
The White Sox did make a move for a starting pitcher. And how's the signing of Erick Fedde, who is the KBO MVP, Cy Young, viewed on the outside?
So, Herb, it's a great question. I think it's a great strategy by the White Sox. You have to think outside the box a little bit. You got to be a little bit different, because you're not going to be able to compete 1-for-1 for Shohei Ohtani. You're not going to get him. Mm-hmm. So you have to be a little imaginative. And I give them credit for understanding the market. Fedde is someone who, like Merrill Kelly, went over to KBO, changed his repertoire, changed his methodology, picked up a new pitch, and has become a different pitcher. So I like that strategy. I like it too, because you're bringing in someone who is adaptable by nature. He picked up his life and moved to Korea and then came back. I'm always impressed by people that take that leap of faith to do that. Mm-hmm. And it's no surprise that you've seen players come back, whether it's Miles Michaelis, Nick Martinez, Brooks Raley, Merrill Kelly, and have success, because you mature so much when you do that. So I think that Fedde's repertoire is better. I think he's going to be a more composed pitcher than he was the first time he was over with the Nationals. And he's a great find. I look at him as being a solid mid-rotation starter. And I think that it's exactly what the White Sox need. You watch them more closely than I did, certainly last year. And they just needed like a raft in the water to say, okay, here's like, I'm secure here. I know what I'm going to get from this player in this position. They didn't have a lot of that last year. And I think that Fedde is someone that is one of those rafts, one of those life preservers that that he'll give you what you're hoping for. And I think that's a very welcome change for what the last couple of years of the White Sox has been.
A lot of talk, obviously, about Cease before the meetings, during the meetings. Chris Getz told us on Monday, not very likely that they're going to move Luis Robert Jr. unless he's really blown away.
Right.
What do you think the odds are, the chances are that they could move Yoan Moncada or Eloy Jimenez, two guys who obviously are due some big pay raises in 2024? But Chris said last night they'd be open-minded to paying down something if the deal made sense. Is there interest in either of those guys out there?
I think there is, but again, the unfortunate part is, for the White Sox, so many of their players just had uncharacteristic seasons and inconsistent seasons that it's hard to have a player as talented as Moncada or Eloy and trade them now. Now, they may have to do it, because I think there is a financial reality that the White Sox have to acknowledge, and you can't afford everybody. And yet you look at the free agent market right now, you've got Jorge Soler, JD Martinez, Justin Turner. You've got some bats that are kind of similar in profile, at least to Eloy. And then with Moncada, there's maybe not a ton of middle infielders. But again, the corners, it depends on how you view Moncada. I tend to look at him mostly as a third baseman now. But Jamer Candelario is there. Gio Urshela is there, who's a great defender. Matt Chapman's on the free agent market. So there are enough comparables, again, to where I think the White Sox probably would have to pay down that contract and find a team that really needs a bat and says, okay, we'll probably pay down this deal, or maybe we'll package them together, or we'll take on one of your contracts, whatever it might be. But I do think some creativity is going to be required. And where I think the White Sox are in a better position right now than they've been in a long time is there is continuity in how they're operating. Like Chris Getz, I've known him really throughout his professional baseball career. Very impressed by Chris, not just because he went to Michigan. He's just he's a great executive and a great guy. But so in the past, and this, there were a lot of different spheres of influence. Was this a Kenny decision? Was this a Rick decision? Did they agree on this? Did they not? All of that now is gone. And I think it's more of a Chris likes this move. Josh Barfield likes this move. Gene Watson, who knows talent as well as anybody in the game, likes this move. We in agreement? Okay, let's do it. And that's it. And I think that there were probably a lot of opportunities that the White Sox, and it was no one's fault really specifically, but they missed on stuff because they couldn't make a decision when you have to make quick decisions. And I think that the current structure of the front office, I think White Sox fans will be very pleased at just the way they can be nimble. They made a significant trade right away in the offseason. That I don't think would have happened in recent years. And I just think it's emblematic of a team that's humming right now in terms of its overall collaboration and chemistry as a front office.
Obviously, a lot of Kansas City flavor
Yes.
with the White Sox. You tweeted in the last hour that the White Sox and Whit Merrifield, who has been spotted around the Opryland Hotel this week, could be an excellent match in free agency. Do you actually see that coming together?
Yes, I think that whether he lands on the south side or not, I think it's going to be a really good fit. And I think the White Sox will be one of those teams that's in there at the end. I don't know exactly where it stands in terms of the conversations, negotiations, if he's already had an offer or anything like that. I just see the fit. And he knows Pedro Grifol. He knows Chris Getz. I happen to think Pedro is going to be really effective in this year as a year two as a manager. I've always been a big fan of his, and I just think it's set up well. He knows the people around him. He's known Chris forever. He's known Gene Watson forever. It's more his team now, I think.
Sure.
And so I look at Whit. If you're able to bring him in, Whit is a high character guy, great clubhouse guy who wants to be a great second baseman. I think he's already shown he can play defense there. He puts the ball in play. He does a lot of things that are valuable in the game now. And I did go back, like trip down memory lane. I said to myself, how many times have I come to these meetings and wondered who the White Sox are going to have to play second base? And I went back and with the genius of Baseball Reference, I searched for all the players that the White Sox have had that have started 100 games at second base. And the last one, I mentioned this in a tweet, the last one that had a 100 plus OPS plus, meaning league average or better offensive player was Alcide Ramirez in 2008. So that position for a decade and a half has been objectively below average, like for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I said on the air like yesterday, just sort of like spitballing ideas. I said, man, like they haven't had a really great second baseman since Tadaguchi. And then and sure enough, like it was on that list, it was Ramirez and then Aguchi. I was like, I wasn't off by too far.
Probably Ray Durham.
Right. Yeah. Ray Durham before him. Exactly. I mean, that's what we're talking about. So I think they're due to have some good news at second base, and Whit would be good news.
Yeah. Last thing I've got for you, wondering when you're next going to be on MLB Network, and when we can see you.
I appreciate it, Herb. Thank you. So I think probably pretty soon. I'm here as our network team is getting back to resume our in-studio schedule tomorrow. The benefit and the blessing of being a Midwesterner and not being based at the home studios, I can say I'll travel back home to Michigan tomorrow night, and then I'm right back in the studio mode Friday, back in my normal Ann Arbor setup where I drop the kids off at school and come home and do TV. So I'm very, very lucky. I love being in the Midwest, as you guys know, and certainly a big night tomorrow for the Wings. As you mentioned, 88's coming over there, so we'll see what happens. But you've got Bedard to watch, and I had a chance to watch him last year in person. Just what an amazing player.
Well,
so,
we have Connor Bedard next year. We'll have Jim Harbaugh as coach of the Chicago.
Yeah, there you go, and that's all good. I know Michigan's played really well. It's been, as you know, a bit of a tumultuous year. So if it's time for Jim to be back in the NFL and be back at Hallis Hall, it's all good. So that's he was there. Now was Hallis Hall there when he was a player? Was it in Lake Forest?
Yes.
It's always been same place. So there you go.
It's a new building, but
new building.
Yeah.
Okay. I was in Lake Forest in October for a field hockey tournament. How about that?
There you go.
My daughters play field hockey, so we were up there and had a great time. So
amazing. Well, thanks for stopping by. We know you're a busy guy. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for the conversation, guys. All the best. Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
Thanks, John.
so much. Thank you.
John Paul Morosi, MLB Network insider, noted Detroit Red Wings fan. So that's interesting. I mean, it's we talk about the White Sox 5 days a week, and we're so in the weeds on it. It's nice to have someone come in and give a national perspective, maybe a little more emotionless perspective than maybe the Herb and Sean normally give.
Well, and I think too, just the knowledge. Listen, this time of year, when we're talking about the things we're talking about all week long at the winter meetings, transactions, takes two to tango, right?
Yeah.
And so we might know what the White Sox want. We might know what the White Sox are looking for. We might know how they operate, but we don't know what the
other side of it.
potential trade partners are thinking. We don't know what player agents are thinking and what's important to those guys. So to get the perspective that covers both sides of that equation is extremely valuable.
I still just kind of find it interesting, and I want to see how it's going to play out. You know, we're seeing where Ohtani, where Yamamoto are going to go, but where does Cease go if he is available and teams do want him? He mentioned the other, pitching candidates that are kind of out there waiting for the other two to kind of slot in. With Cease, with that 2 years of control, could he move to the head of the line and be so attractive that some team is coming up and giving that much? I don't think that's going to happen, but also after listening to John, it certainly could end up that way.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what we've been talking about is kind of what the White Sox have said this week, which is there are so many different routes, right? You can think of it playing out in so many different ways. Maybe they trade him right away this offseason because, hey, I'm a team and I got to have 2 years of Dylan Cease and I'm going to give you whatever you want because look how good that guy's been. Right. Or maybe it is, you know what? I'm another team. I don't want to give up that much. I'm going to go after one of these 1 year guys. And the White Sox are left with fewer suitors perhaps than they thought they had. Or maybe it's what John was talking about. White Sox say, hey, we didn't get what we wanted in the winter. Let's keep him. He's pretty good. He could help us win games in April and May and June. Wait until the trade deadline when there is some desperation, some real desperation, as teams look to distinguish themselves among a crop of contenders.
And one thing that's not really said often is that when they do trade him, if they do trade him, that team that gets him will have the availability to give him a qualifying offer at the end of his contract. So, yes, it's not great. It's not the biggest thing, but
that goes away once you're traded.
Oh, what?
I thought once you're traded, you can't have the qualifying offer.
I thought it's still there.
Don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe it is if it's your original team. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to everyone who's joining in. Shout out to everyone who's joined in with us during our 3 shows here in Nashville. Wanted to mention we are having a CHGO Die Hard sale through the end of the weekend. You can become a CHGO Die Hard for just $59.99. That's $20 off the regular price, and it gets you everything from 20% off merch and events to insider coverage from our experts like Vinnie Duber. You get a free shirt every year. And look, if you're already a diehard, no problem. Sign somebody up, get a gift subscription, also $59.99. Comes in a great CHGO diehard box. It'll be underneath the tree. So if you do that now, you get that box, you get that shirt, and you're off. And all your shopping's done. So check that out at allchgo.com/diehard.
Herb, I was half right.
Mm-hmm.
So if a team were to acquire Dylan Cease in 2024 in season,
okay,
they could offer him a qualifying offer at the end of his contract because he will have spent the entire 2025 season on that team. An in-season acquisition is ineligible to receive a qualifying offer.
Okay.
Gotcha. Hey, with Empire today, you get a shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats, but Empire can't be beaten on quality, service, speed. So competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that they would not put in theirs. Look, if you call up Empire 588-2300, they keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through the thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. They pride themselves also on that convenient shop-at-home service, help customers shop for floors where they use their floors so they can see exactly what their new floors will look like in their home's lighting and decor, so they make an informed decision. Is it decor or decor? I never know.
I would go decor, but I think it might be up to interpretation.
Okay. Empire also services its own warranties. If an issue arises, you just call up Empire and they service all the warranties themselves. You don't have to track down any manufacturers or start bothering them. So, hey, schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details.
It is getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we all can get behind for the health of the planet and the well-being of all of us who share it.
Herb, what a fantastic point. You know, the electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence toward an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help you. They can help guide you, rather, to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do, Vinny?
Herb, it's a phenomenal question. What they should do is they should go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to an electric vehicle. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
Herb, I'm glad that you went to the ear doctor and they found out that you had great hearing, because that's exactly what I said. So go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for joining the CHGO White Sox podcast. We just had John Paul Morosi giving the national perspective. Want to get into what happened here today at the winter meetings. It's the last day of the winter meetings. The big event is the Rule 5 draft. The White Sox selected pitcher Shane Drohan from the Boston Red Sox organization. He's a left-handed pitcher. He was picked 4th in the Rule 5 draft. He's a lefty with a plus changeup. Not great numbers in the minor leagues. He had a 5.05 ERA and a 129-72 strikeout walk ratio over 123 innings between AA Portland and AAA Worcester. I don't know.
Rhymes with
2023. Turns 25 on January 7th, and he was drafted with the 148th pick in the 5th round of the 2020 MLB draft out of Florida State. We have sound from Chris Getz on both Shane Drohan and then also yesterday's signing Erick Fedde. So Steven has that queued up. We'll go straight to that.
Shane Drohan, he's a left-handed starter with the Boston Red Sox. Pitched at AA, had a little AAA time as well. It's a guy that, we've got history with going back to, his Florida State days. We had some early spring training looks on him this year, and we liked what we saw. And then during the season as well. And then, further evaluation analytically, there were some indications of some upside here. So it's an opportunity to take a shot on an arm that, we feel has a potential to have some survival skills at the major league level to begin with, and long term with a little bit of upside that could potentially be a rotation piece or a reliever of some sort.
Sounds like you're talking scouting, but do you have someone more direct connection to him? Did Brian work with him before? Or?
Vanny's not worked with him before, but obviously in the evaluation process, we bring him in on any pitcher acquisition, and you break it down certain ways, and you come to a decision on who you want to bring in, and Shane was there, and we feel good about it.
Some of the numbers might not impress some folks, but what jumped out about you guys, or to you guys, about him?
Well, at AA, he was off and running pretty well, and then when he got up to AAA, he slid a little bit, and whether that was a fatigue factor, I know a lot of pitchers, we dealt with it, guys going from AA to AAA with the ABS system. It kind of altered their performance just because it was a different pitching environment. So, obviously these things are bets, and there's enough support and indicators to think that there's potential here.
You see him as part of the starting pitching mix at least going into the spring?
Obviously that's a possibility if he comes in. That's very dependent on who else we bring in here, but there's also versatility there. So I think that's what made him attractive. He doesn't necessarily need to be in the rotation. There are enough weapons there, with his pitch mix, and that's something we identified as well. Is his attack plan right now? We feel like there's some tweaks to it to really optimize what he has.
What changed with Fedde that you guys were able to see that you could project him back to being a major league pitcher for you?
Well, we were able to, look at the type of pitcher he was with the Nationals, and they non-tendered him, and he went over to Korea, but in the off season, physically he really worked on his body so he could move down the rubber a little bit differently. But most importantly, it was his pitch arsenal. There's some real material differences with his stuff. He added the sweeper. He got a better feel for his sinker. He changed his attack plan, and he more or less dominated over at the KBO. And there's been success stories here recently, the Merrill Kellys of the world. We talked to we talked to hitters over there. We talked to people that are just around that league, and felt like he was the most feared pitcher in that league, and the numbers show it. So, to take a chance on a guy where we see this material difference, to come back here, he's got confidence. It was a tremendous runway for him to make these adjustments and then go to a league where it's a bit of a major league environment from a fan's pressure standpoint, and certainly being a foreigner, it's never easy. So he's got a lot of confidence. We see a difference in the stuff, and for him to come back here with that level of confidence and the ability, which is a difference from where it was before, we were willing to take that bet, and we look forward to giving him that runway here with the White Sox.
Is the pitch arsenal as important as even the numbers that he put up in Korea, showing that he changed?
The combination of both, and when you look at a projection system, and we've got the ability to get a better understanding of this, is it going to translate? Should it translate? And there was enough support there to feel like we should go and get Erick Fedde.
How would you assess these meetings overall, the conversations you've had, even if it's only manifested itself in the Fedde deal and the Rule 5 pickups?
Listen, we were able to get some things done here. We've got someone for our rotation, and obviously we've got a weapon here with our Rule 5 pick, and we laid a foundation for the potential of bringing guys in certain capacities. I know that a lot of people are disappointed more business would have been conducted here around the league, but we're still moving the needle.
Does the fact that Fedde got a multi-year deal kind of show your guys' confidence that he'll be able to contribute, the way you expect him to, not just this year, or not just next year rather, but in 25 as well?
Yes, that was important to bring someone in here that we feel like is not only going to help us in the immediate, but could help us in 25 as well, and with a chance for a little bit more than that in terms of his production.
You've made it clear to teams that if they're going to get Dylan Cease, they're going to have to pay deeply. Was it good to get the message out that, hey, the bar is going to be high, we're not giving this guy away?
Yeah, I don't know if the message needed to be put out there, quite honestly, just because everyone knows how impactful Dylan Cease is in this league. But you have a certain threshold as an organization on the return on someone like Dylan Cease, and if there's an opportunity to strengthen our club and plug some holes, which we need to do, and continue to look for opportunities to do that, we have to consider that.
Have you talked to him at all? Do you have to talk to Dylan in this process? I mean, just with the rumors that come out there, is it basically on if he reaches out to you, maybe you say something?
Yep. I personally have not spoken to him, but whether it be Ethan or Banny or our strength and conditioning staff and training staff, we've been in communication with him. I know he's been reading his name in there, and that at times can be a little bit different feeling, but he's been traded before. But he's at a different stage in his career, right? And Dylan's really grown up, and he knows how I feel about him. He knows what the organization feels about him. He's one of the stars in our game, and we've really enjoyed having him. And there's certainly a chance that he's back with us, and we'd be feeling pretty good about that too.
It's not like a bad team would be trading for him, right? I mean, if he doesn't have the chance to help you win, he's going to have a really good chance to help someone else.
Yeah, so I think he's in a pretty good headspace. No, Dylan Cease.
Starting pitching, how big of a priority still is it for you guys even after the Fedde deal?
No, it remains a high priority. We've got some innings to cover, and we're going to try and go out there to get the best pitchers we can within the means that we have.
What sort of fit is he from a personality, clubhouse standpoint in terms of what you guys are trying to build from an identity standpoint?
Yeah, makeup, work ethic, the determination, well, I should say the awareness that he needed to make a change. And not only did he understand he needed to make that change, but he went out and did it, right? And we're talking about a former first rounder, a guy that has made countless starts at the major league level, so he understands what it's going to take, and he was very intentional with the changes he made, and most importantly, he was able to execute.
So just back to your Rule 5 guy, do you see him as a starter, or do you see him as a reliever if it was to start today?
Long term, we believe he's got the ability to start. The Rule 5 is the mechanics of the Rule 5, make it challenging because you only have so many starter spots. We're talking about a guy that hasn't pitched in the big leagues yet, but what made him attractive is he does have this versatility. He's a left-handed arm that could go in the bullpen. He's got the weapons to do that. He's got weapons that can handle right and left-handed hitters. And if you have those weapons, the ability to go deeper into games, there's starter potential, but there's reliever ability too. So if you're going to have a guy stick on a roster, it becomes easier when you have that versatility.
You feel close on anything leaving these meetings?
I wouldn't say that we feel like we're knocking on the door of something, but it's more, getting a better idea of where we stand, whether it be, acquiring a guy through free agency or a trade. I will say that we're very organized. We've done a nice job this off season with setting out a plan and feel really good about where we're at so far, and just kind of want to continue to capture the momentum.
Excellent camera work, Vinny.
Thank you.
I don't know where you want to start with that. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. That was obviously the last time Chris Getz talked here in Nashville, wrapping things up, putting a bow on stuff as it happened here. They obviously did achieve things here. Not a big huge moves, but it seems like Chris Getz feels pretty confident in what they did achieve. Do you want to start with Drohan or Fedde? I'd leave it up to you.
I mean, I think for a lot of the guys that they've acquired, and John was talking about it a little bit earlier, getting creative. The White Sox have addressed their need in the starting rotation, but they haven't really brought in a lot of certainty. And I think Fedde might be as close to that as they think. They have obviously are looking at the work that he put in. They're looking at really in-depth pitching stuff with Brian Bannister aboard in the front office. But looking at it from the outside, we don't know, because he hasn't faced major league hitting in 2 years. Is he going to be the same kind of pitcher that he was in Korea, where he was, the best pitcher in the league, or is he going to be closer to the pitcher that he was the last time he was in the United States, which was a guy who had 5.5 ERAs for the Washington Nationals? Sure. We're going to find out, and certainly Chris Getz and company very confident that it will be the former, that it will be that the changes that he made last offseason are going to stick. But this is yet another starting pitcher with a big question mark here with the White Sox. Now, the good news for the White Sox is they have more of those than they did before, where they had, starting pitchers with question marks, but not enough of them to fill out a rotation. And now they've got some guys that they can plug in. Fedde is going to be in that rotation. It's a 2-year major league deal. If you move to the Rule 5 guy that they took today in Drohan, seems like it would be a little bit more of a question where he ends up. I mean, remember, this is a Rule 5 pick. If they want to keep him, he's got to be part of that major league roster. So is he going to be, arrive at spring training and all of a sudden the guy who had a 6.5 ERA in AAA has figured some things out? It happens, right? But is he going to show up and win a job in that starting rotation in the spring? Or are they going to look to him maybe more as a bullpen piece, Chris, in the sound that we just played, really hyping up the versatility and maybe Drohan's ability to land in the bullpen? So with the moves that they've made so far, not a lot of certainty being brought in certain avenues. Yeah, we've talked about infield defense being improved, and I think you're going to continue to see defense be a focus, whether it's at the catcher position or in right field. But just a lot of we'll see what happens when these guys show up to Camelback Ranch in Arizona.
It'll be interesting because judging from those comments, it sounds like a lot of the impression that Drohan made with them was in spring training from a year ago, correct?
Scouting. I mean, they they've scouted this guy. It sounds like, Chris mentioned that they probably were looking at him back when he was a college player and that they've scouted. You think about all the work that some of these amateur scouting departments do leading up to each and every draft. They basically have a knowledge or a working knowledge of everybody in baseball at a certain point because, we remember when we were looking at him during the draft. Remember when we were looking at him during the draft. But they've seen some things that obviously they think is going to work for this kid. The numbers once he went to AAA last year, they were spectacular in AA for about 5 or 6 starts. I think the ERA was under 2, and then once he got to AAA, there were some struggles. And so, is this going to be a guy who gets thrown to the major league wolves? He has not pitched in the major leagues yet. After figuring some stuff out and finding some success, or is it just a roll of the dice? And I think that's a thing to remember when you talk about Fedde, who obviously got a 2-year major league deal. When you talk about Drohan, who is just a Rule 5 pick. Chris Getz was using language like bets and we're willing to bet on this and risk this and roll the dice. You got to remember, nobody knows how this is going to turn out. And I think there is some higher levels of question marks with where the White Sox are in their process right now and some of the guys that they're
and it has to pay off right away because with that roster spot, I mean, he's got to put up or shut up in spring training. So
yeah, and Vinny, when we were talking about the offseason for the White Sox, the last couple of years, we've been talking about starting pitching depth. What has Chris Getz and his staff gone and done? Went and got Jared Schuster, went and got Michael Soroka. Now you're getting Erick Fedde to be in the actual rotation. You know he's going to be in the rotation. And then Drohan, just to give you depth for the major leagues and the minor leagues, because they didn't have all that. Like, remember last year, I think it was 2 consistent starting pitchers on that Charlotte Knights team. So that's what they need. They need to start filling out the bottom of the roster and the bottom of that minor league system. So this is a good move. It's a move that the White Sox need to be making more of. Just getting arms in there. Yeah, Drohan, the numbers don't look great in AAA, but I think they have a lot of faith in what Brian Bannister brings to the table, a lot of faith in what Ethan Katz brings to the table. And so, yes, these names and these moves in major leagues and their professional side of here in America, the numbers don't look great, but they seem to have a lot of faith in what their pitching lab and what it's going to be in the future can transform these arms. And you saw Brian Bannister last night on Twitter at the Real Banny just gush about what Fedde did. He worked at the same facility as Logan Webb, who was of the San Francisco Giants, added some sweeper split change to his arsenal just as Webb did. And he said that Ethan Katz and himself were both with Webb when he made those changes. So you're getting right from the horse's mouth and Brian Bannister why they wanted to make these moves. And when you just heard from Chris Getz, these moves for them, it seems like they're not only scouted these players, but they need these type of players, these type of level of players, because they're not going to be at the Yamamoto or the Shohei Ohtani's or the top of the league of Blake Snell type of moves, but you're going to be in the mid rotation type of guys and fill out the rest of your roster type of guys. And this is what they should be doing.
And Herb, you'll see more. I mean, the White Sox have so many needs to address, so much depth to add. They're not done by any stretch of the imagination. There's going to be a lot of moves left, and there's still going to be starting pitching moves too, because they need to have some depth, like you mentioned. But it would be nice if some of the guys they've already got were depth too. You know what I mean? So I think that you're going to see continued moves. We've been talking for days now. Is Dylan Cease going to go somewhere? If that's the case, that starting pitching need becomes even greater than it already is. So you're going to see a continued focus on pitching, as Chris said in that clip.
So I love the fact that Brian Bannister is going on Twitter and sharing these thoughts, because I think it's just illuminating for journalists and media and fans. Are you though surprised that, I mean, I feel like that's not normal in baseball, right? Like that usually it's like the GM or the president is the mouthpiece. Did you find it interesting that Bannister, I mean, obviously he's always been outspoken about these things before he was with the White Sox, but did you find it interesting that he was doing that?
Yeah, I mean, mostly because the deal's not official yet. They've got a physical that they've got to get done. So I mean, like there's a bit of me that was a little surprised that Chris Getz was talking about it today, just because, not that anything's going to go wrong or expected to be a red flag, but it's just, you hear nothing but silence when all this stuff is reported. And fans always see, if somebody like John tweets that a deal's done, oh, it's done. That's
right.
And it's not always the case. Even if it is, the teams don't act that way. And we as the reporters are not supposed to act that way. And so to see, yes, like you mentioned, a comment from a member of the front office who is not the person that is usually giving the answers. That is interesting and a little surprising, but it's even more surprising that he was doing it without the team having announced the deal.
Well, you know what? It's the holiday season. They may want to be taking their families to that drive-in light display at the guaranteed rate field. Maybe they just figured everyone's here already. We'll get it done in Nashville. We'll make a bet on the fact that the medicals will clear and we'll call it a day. So I'm sure you appreciated it.
I did appreciate it. It's more stuff to write about. You've always got to appreciate that.
Yeah. So I guess overall impressions of Chris Getz. I think I asked you this yesterday, but overall, like Chris Getz's first winter meetings, overall impressions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can look around baseball and say that, oh, just because he didn't get everything on his to-do list done this week doesn't mean that he did a poor job, because he's one of the only GMs that did get something done this week with a very slow winter meetings here that are wrapping up right now. So I think this was a lot of laying a foundation for stuff moving forward, be it in the next few days, the next few weeks, the next few months. It was having those conversations with folks and trying to get the ball rolling on some things. I think he used the word either build off the momentum that they had from making the Aaron Bummer trade, or to create new momentum towards something else. So I think that, you keep hearing, whether it's from people with the White Sox, John was mentioning it here earlier, Chris Getz has a plan, and he's trying to execute that plan. It might be a plan that doesn't strike every fan as their favorite approach. It might be a plan that might be a little different from what you see people around baseball doing, but we keep hearing about Chris Getz's vision for what this team is supposed to be, and it sounds like they're sticking to that they are trying to make that become a reality with the types of players that they are acquiring and the types of guys that they want to come in and play the style of baseball that they want them to play. We keep hearing from Chris and Pedro kind of describing what that's going to be: a faster, more aggressive style, playing a more well-rounded game, being more fundamentally sound. This is something that the White Sox were very much not in the last 2 years. And so to go ahead and get them to where they want them to be, I personally don't see it happening in one offseason. I think it's too much work to do to get done by the end of or by the time they leave Arizona. But the future is not just 1 year. And so I think that there is a very, very strong effort being taken by Chris and his front office to everybody be on the same page, everybody work toward this goal that we have set. We're going to try and make this vision become a reality.
Yeah, I thought, as I said before, the bar for me for Chris Getz as a first-year GM was on the ground. And so he's exceeded my expectation. He moves with the confidence of a seasoned veteran GM. As Vinny said, that he's one of the only GMs making moves out here. Not in a rush to trade Dylan Cease. You're not hitting his number. Cool, I'll keep him. Shoot. And you got to hit my number. He's been moving with some confidence. And as John Palmerosi just said, it seems like they move in a collaborative effort. Him, Josh Barfield, Gene Watson, Brian Bannister. And it's good. But he's the decision maker. He's the guy.
That stuck out to me, was saying obviously here in Chicago, you didn't know who was in charge. Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams. It sounds like on the national level, they had the same questions. So then you kind of also wonder, okay, within the MLB community and the other 29 clubs, do they know Chris Getz is at the top of the chain, and there's no dispute. So I think that's great for the White Sox going forward, and I think he did well here, and hopefully, these moves do add up into something going forward. Hey, everyone, I want to tell you about Circa Sportsbook. Circa Sportsbook is our favorite because they offer the tight money line split and low hold model. Games always strive to be a negative 110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sportsbook, which may use a negative 115 or negative 120, which means more money to the book when you lose. Circa Sports keeps as little as money as possible on large market bets like futures, golf tournaments, etc., especially compared to those other books. They always emphasize their transparency because Circa Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do not limit winning players. And they encourage bettors to download and explore all of those other sports betting apps because they're confident they'll always have the best lines and the best odds. Circa customer service is also top of class. They are real people behind the Circa Sports brand, and they resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. And all aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today, and also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know who may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text GAMB to 833-234 or visit areyoureallywinning.com.
CHGO is supported by Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer since 1988. Their beer roster includes the Oktoberfest, Beer Hug Family, 312 Wheat Ale, and the Full Pocket Pills, the everyday beer, what the brewers are drinking, not the Milwaukee Brewers, the brewers at the actual brew place. The CHGO Blackhawks, the CHGO Bulls will be having takeovers. These events are sponsored by the folks at Goose Island, so be on the lookout for those events. What you want to do right now is grab an ultra fresh brewery exclusive beer at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. I've been there multiple times. They have beers that I haven't listed here and beers that you'll love. That Saison, it's just tequila is just so delicious. Goose Island Beer Company is Chicago's beer.
All right, so we've talked about the Rule 5 draft. We've talked about Erick Fedde. The other, and maybe made even bigger news on Twitter, was the news that Jerry Reinsdorf was spotted meeting with Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell. We've seen Jerry around the hotel here. He was spotted, I guess, downtown or wherever the mayor works out of, I would guess, City Hall, meeting with him. Jerry Reinsdorf started trending on Twitter this morning because obviously there were those rumors over the summer that he was, possibly threatening to move to Nashville. Now, Jerry did deny that, and while the team did confirm today that meeting did take place, they also kind of said, look, this is not as big of a deal as maybe it's being made out to be.
Well, I mean, what they said was that they wouldn't talk about what the topics were. I think that, listen, we don't know what they talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing is that when you have what happened in August, which was the Cranes report saying he was considering a number of new ideas for where the team would play, be it somewhere else in the city besides 35th and Shields, be it somewhere in the suburbs, and then Nashville was brought up as one of those other possible options. It's hard to divorce those two thoughts in the minds of a lot of people. Those things seem to go together. So we don't know. Listen, Jerry, what we do know about Jerry is that he's very involved with the upper levels of Major League Baseball. He's one of the longest serving owners, and he's got great influence and presence with the commissioner and with all the big decision making that goes on. We also know that there is an effort underway to bring baseball to Nashville with an expansion team. Dave Stewart is one of the people spearheading that operation, a great friend of Tony La Russa. Who's a great friend of Tony La Russa? Jerry Reinsdorf. So, but then there is this whole thing that we saw in August. There is that, it was something he felt the need to address when we talked to him the day Chris Getz was promoted. And then there's going on back to the late 1980s, right? And everything that happened then. So this isn't anything at the moment. You've got to remember that there are 6 years left on the lease at Guaranteed Rate Field.
Right.
But for a fan base that has dealt with so much negative during this calendar year, this really just seems to be the obvious conclusion that they would jump to. And so I understand why it is a big deal on social media, that it will be a talking point. If it wasn't about that, you would think maybe it would behoove the White Sox to say it wasn't about that. That's not what happened today. And so I understand why folks are thinking what they're thinking. At the end of the day, this day is not a big deal at the moment until something else, if something else were to happen.
Yeah, I think that they're probably on purpose not giving you much out there. He maybe wants it to speculate out there in the atmosphere for the reasons that we were talking about in the 80s, because he did this type of playbook back in the 80s where he was flirting with the St. Pete White Sox and moving the team down there, and he got his way here with the Illinois legislator and Big Jim Thompson, who was the governor at the time, big time White Sox fan, and got the stadium he wanted to be built. So it's just leverage, I think, in my personal opinion, that he's just, maybe just doing the stuff that Vinny's saying and meeting with the Nashville mayor about a proposed new team for the Nashville team. And it's not about the White Sox, but it doesn't hurt for him to have a shroud of secrecy and have all that rumor and innuendo going out there. And maybe the White Sox are moving to Nashville, and the Illinois people are like, oh, they moving to Nashville?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, we got to keep them here. But I don't know if that would work necessarily this time, because we already know the playbook. And also, the White Sox are not that good right now. So White Sox fans, most of the people I've been talking about is like, bet if you had to go to Nashville, deuces, brother. But it's good for Jerry to have this type of speculation out there. It's good for everybody, for his pocketbook. But I know he's a smart man. He understands the Chicago market is the Chicago market. It's a world-class city. And while this is a good city in Nashville, we've seen it. Come on now.
The thing that stands out to me though is Nashville can really almost, I think, stand like it is this kind of, you know, it's an expansion spot, right? So you could bring an expansion team here if you did bring in the right investors, but then it also serves the purposes for owners, not only including Jerry Reinsdorf in their efforts to, you know, upgrade their existing, you know, stadium, but, you know, Milwaukee has been rumored, you know, and put in the Nashville hat. Let's say, you know, Cleveland or Kansas City, they start having problems getting what they want out of a stadium deal. Nashville can be what the LA was, you know, to the NFL for 20 plus years.
Yes.
So
correct. Yeah.
You know, it's going to be interesting going forward. So
yeah, they already taken the Las Vegas one away, so they need to have another boogeyman.
Right. Right. I mean, it's like Nashville. I mean, I don't, you know, like for like the longest time, I was like, oh, there could be maybe a third team in the New York market. We'll put it in northern New Jersey. You don't hear that much as much anymore, but Nashville is like, you know, Tennessee is this symbol for kind of like the new America. Everything's kind of moving south and into, you know, different states. And, you know, it probably behooves Major League Baseball to have this market be empty for as long as it takes to get everyone into situations where they want to be in their current market. So
that sucks.
That's how it works.
I know it's how it works, but it sucks that that's how it works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, I'm not even. Listen, everything this fan base has been through this year, you would think that you wouldn't want to throw this on top of it, right? And so there's that. And then listen, if you don't care about that, fine. You know, that's your prerogative. Maybe we shouldn't live in a society where billionaire organizations get public money to build a stadium. But that's just my thought.
And I saw someone mention that the Titans just got $1.26 billion from taxpayers here, right? And taxpayers are not happy, right? So so how is baseball going to come in here and get even more money to you know, to build? They don't even have a baseball stadium. I mean, they have a AAA stadium, but you're not going to move a major league team in there. So it's all part of the soap opera of sports in 2024. Hey, I want to tell everyone about Midtown Athletic Club. We miss Midtown Athletic Club.
Always, every day.
We're going to get back to Midtown Athletic Club.
I'm calling people as soon as I get out of this and see if I could be a member.
Because Midtown has 4 Chicagoland locations: Palatine in the northwest suburbs, Bannockburn in the North Shore, Willowbrook in the southwest suburbs, and Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown and Lincoln Park. Midtown Palatine is undergoing a multi-million-dollar transformation of the club, which will be complete in early 2024. Listeners can lock in favorable rates if they join before the end of the year. They have something at the clubs for everyone, whether you're single, you're a family, you're a person looking to make a lifestyle change. Midtown Chicago is the nicest fitness club I've ever been to. It's the nicest fitness club you'll ever been to. No matter what, you know, you think is a really nice gym in Chicago, Midtown Athletic Club is at the top of the food chain. They have super luxe locker rooms with wet and dry saunas and premium amenities like nice fluffy towels and Dyson hair dryers. They offer amazing outdoor and indoor pools and hot tubs. They also have a collection of boutique fitness studios, so you don't have to join like 5 different places to get all, you know, everything that you want, whether it's, you know, bike riding or you know, cardio, tennis. It's everything under one roof,
and all the equipment too is there. Like
top
if you
of
need
line
yoga mats, they're already there. The biking shoes, you bring them in yourself, or if you don't need them, if you don't want them, use your regular shoes. They have everything you need there at the club, so you're not carrying a bunch of stuff there.
Exactly. And they offer the best tennis courts and programming in the sport. Midtown has indoor, outdoor tennis, pickleball, and paddle tennis. They are USTA professional quality all the way. Head over to midtown.com/CHGO to find out more and to tour the Midtown Athletic Club nearest you at your convenience. So things are wrapping up here at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel in Nashville. There was like thousands of people here for the Rule 5 draft. They all poured out. Casey's new friend, Clinton Hurdle, came out. Talked with Casey. They talked about Pittsburgh. That was cool. But now everyone's gone. Clinton Hurdle's gone. All that's left is CHGO, a guy from PHLY, guy from PHNX, and that's about it.
Tom Morosi came back and just was doing things. He was Yeah, he was just chilling here while you're doing that Midtown read. He's just making sure we're all good.
And he's going to be on the Cubs show in a little bit.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
Nice. Beautiful.
Cubbies.
I'm sure he has thoughts on Shohei Ohtani, and
Yeah, that'll be on at 4, so make sure you tune in for that.
Cool. We want to thank everyone for supporting us at CHGO. Without you, trips like these would not be possible, and we really don't take that for granted. We love coming down here and putting in a full team effort, bringing you the best podcasts, the best written content, the best social content. Thank you so much for doing that. These guys will be back on CHGO White Sox tomorrow. Sean will be back next week. I want to thank everyone for letting me do a nice little stint here, a nice little 3-day stint. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to talk about the White Sox. And, yeah. For Herb Lawrence, for Vinnie Duber, and for Stephen Necklace, I'm Kevin Kaduk, CHGO White Sox. We'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.